that's where the passion comes from, right? Like, that's why we're here. When we look at the change that the veterans experience, it's slow. It's usually about a year that they've been paired with their dog, working with their dog, that all of a sudden the light bulb happens.
Hello, my name is Blake Furman and I'm the founder for Veterans Navigation Network. Through our work with veterans, helping them find resources that are available to them, make sure they're getting all the benefits that they earn through their military service, we get to work with a lot of amazing organizations, one of which is Dog Tag Buddies. They're based here in Billings, Montana, and today I get to meet with their operations manager, Kati Grove. How are you doing today, Kati?
I'm good, Blake. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for being here today. Well, I want everybody to know what Dog Tag Buddies is, and that's what we're going to talk about. But I want to know, how did you get involved in Dog Tag Buddies? What led you to kind of, get involved with the organization? But I guess have a passion that I know you have for serving veterans.
So thank you for having me. I got started with Dog Tag Buddies actually because my mom is the founder, based off of my dad's service. He served in the Montana National Guard for 21 years. So I grew up kind of running around the armories and things like that on the weekend warrior. And in 2004, it was the end of my junior year, my dad was notified that his unit was being deployed to Iraq. And so he was in Texas the summer between my junior and senior year, and in November of my senior year, actually the day before my 18th birthday, he deployed to Kuwait. Well, they left for Kuwait and ultimately Iraq. So he spent a year in Iraq and came home with a traumatic brain injury as a result of some of the percussive explosions he experienced from IEDs, as well as PTSD. And the journey that he and my mom went through in understanding what those hidden injuries meant, I experienced, but I had also, because I was by the time he got home, I was 19, I had graduated, and so I was kind of off on my own, but still, close with my parents. And as my dad was working through the challenges he was experiencing, one thing my mom noticed is he would lay on the floor with his dogs, and she could see the stress just kind of melt. And we've always been very passionate about dogs, about animals, about rescue, and she decided that she wanted to give back, and so she started Dog Tag Buddies. It was a kitchen table conversation, and it just kind of grew from there. And as she was working through, I said, well, I want to be involved. I want to help with this. This is something that matters to me as well. And not long after we got our 501c3, she got our 501c3, I was working at a local bank at the time. I spent 10 years in bank operations, got my business degree, and she called me and said, we're going to have a newspaper interview and we need a website. And I spent the next 72 hours over the weekend building our first website, and the rest is that's where we went from there. Yeah. Her and I spent the first couple of years managing Dog Tag Buddies while both working full-time jobs. And as the organization has grown and evolved, we have both been able to transition to doing this full-time. And we both say it's the job we never knew we wanted.
Yeah, I think a lot of nonprofits share kind of those origin stories of even in VNN's case, it was my personal experience I didn't see a solution to, and so I worked to create the solution. And I'm just glad that you guys saw the need through your personal story, and now are working to serve veterans through Dog Tag Buddies. So can you kind of talk a little bit more? I think you mentioned it throughout your story of your father, but why Dog Tag Buddies? why is it so important for veterans to be around animals, and what other kind of components of dog tag buddies are there? Because it's not just working with the vet, it's working with the animals as well.
Yeah. So, there's numerous studies showing that just the presence of an animal reduces stress. It helps releases endorphins, all of the things that they just make us feel good, right? When we look at it from a service dog perspective, the things that we can train these dogs to do and the things that they're capable of is incredible. And when you partner that with a veteran who's trying to work through the challenges of their disability, it just becomes they become battle buddies. It's been described that they have a new mission. What we're trying to do is it's an integrative therapeutic program that results in a service dog. And so when we match the veteran with the dog, we don't fully train them. The veteran and the dog go through the journey together. And it's really trying to help the veteran, one, reduce self-isolation. So they have to get out of the house. They have to come to class once a week with their dog. They also have to work with their dog throughout the week. So things, you've got to get out of bed and let the dog out to go to the bathroom. You've got to feed them. You've got to walk them. You've got to do all of these things just for their basic needs. And then when we add the training component onto it, now, again, we have this new mission. And so we're trying to help the veteran work through that with the dog by their side.
You also get the opportunity to do a lot of public kind of training. Can you talk a little bit more about that? I know I've seen you guys in Shills and all sorts of places.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of confusion between the difference of a service dog and an emotional support animal, right? And an emotional support animal can be any animal, and it's just something that provides comfort. When we look at a service dog, particularly a psychiatric service dog, it's a level far above that. So according to ADA, a service dog has to be trained to perform tasks to mitigate a disability, and they have to be under the handler's control at all times.
And the ADA is the
Americans with Disability Act. Yep. And so that's kind of a gray area. And for us, we really want to make sure that our service dogs are embody what a service dog should be. And our ultimate goal, and we have this happen, is we'll be out at a restaurant. We take public access training very seriously. Our dogs need to be what's called bomb-proof, or we call it bomb-proof, that anything can happen and that dog is cool as a cucumber. And our biggest compliment is when we're out doing that public access training is we might be at a restaurant and we might have 4 dogs under a table. We'll get up and leave and everyone around us will go, I didn't even know there was a dog in here. That is how those service dogs are expected to behave. And we spend a lot of time training. We spend hundreds of hours training the dogs. The program takes about 1.5 years to 2 years to complete. And like I said, the veteran and the dog are training together, and we're training both ends of the leash.
Yeah.
So that public access is really important to get the dogs used to being in all sorts of places. We take them, like you said, we go to Shills. Shills is great because they have all different kinds of environments. We can test on elevators. We can teach them how to use escalators if there's no other options. You've got the Ferris wheel, you've got statues and taxidermy mounts and all of these crazy things. And so it's a great training environment. We take them out to restaurants. We take them up to the airport. They go through TSA, learn how to go through security if they're planning on flying. All of the components of what would be normal life with the dog by their side. And it's also to help, once again, that isolation. We're trying to reduce that. So we get them out of the house. The program starts with they come to basic training, so they're in a controlled environment. They're in our training center. They know who's coming and going, and we build a relationship and trust with them. And then as we advance through training, we start taking them out. And it starts small, where we usually start up at Big R in the Heights because it's near our training center. We might just be in the parking lot. Yeah. But as the veteran's confidence grows, as their trust in us grows, and as their confidence in their dog grows, we continue to push and help them start going to other environments. And again, the goal is always, it's always the veteran. What does the veteran want to accomplish? And we're going to help train the dog to help them accomplish that. So goals are things like, I want to go to my kids' sports events. I want to be able to take my partner out for a date for dinner. What is important to them that they can't do right now? And how do we help them accomplish that with the dog by their side?
Yeah. You've talked a lot about what the program looks like, but I'm sure a lot of the viewers are wondering, how does a veteran get into the program? What's the eligibility look like?
Sure. So we have a pretty extensive application process, but our services are at no cost to veterans. And it's a pretty intense program. So we have the veteran to look at and we have the dog to look at. And so our application process is all online we have a third-party database that meets HIPAA and privacy requirements. That's why we have it all online. They can visit our website. We require a DD-214, disability rating that includes a hidden injury, PTSD, TBI, anxiety, depression. We're really focused on that psychiatric service dog component. We do a light mobility, but if they're truly needing a mobility dog, we usually refer them to another organization. So we're really in that psychiatric service dog niche. They have to have stable housing, stable income. They have to be able to help pay for the dog and their care. During training, we do cover all of those costs, but once they graduate, we do ask that they take those on. If they have been in any type of inpatient treatment, we ask that they are at least a year out. And they have to be able to attend training in one of our locations once a week. It's usually about an hour. So we have our headquarters here in Billings. We also have trainers located throughout the state to make sure that veterans don't have to travel more than about 2 hours to come to class. And if they do have to travel more than about 50 miles, we will help with gas so that we can kind of ease that burden. But we have a trainer in Bozeman, Helena, Great Falls, Havre, the Kalispell Flathead region, and the Missoula Bitterroot region.
Yeah. And you touched on it just a little bit around there's different kind of service dogs or different training. Can you talk a little bit more about that? So specifically hidden injuries, but I think public awareness about service dogs, and maybe even go into that a little bit about how should the public treat service dogs when they see them.
Absolutely.
I know those are two things that, well, one thing that at least you're really passionate about, and I know Dee Dee is even more so.
Yes. No, they're absolutely things that we're passionate about because there's so much misinformation out there, and it's hard because, you do a Google search and the first thing that comes up is pay X amount of dollars and get your dog certified as a service dog, and here's your vest and your ID card. And what's happening with that is we have untrained dogs out in the public being represented as service dogs, and they're not always under the handler's control. And so for us, it's really important that people understand the level of training that these dogs receive, that they can be safe in public at all times to the general public. We see stories of, dogs that are being represented as service dogs or emotional support animals that are biting people or attacking other dogs, and that is obviously a danger to the public. And when we look at our teams, if a service dog, if one of our dogs is attacked by another dog, that can ruin them. We can have hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars down the drain because now this dog has now been traumatized. So when we look at the psychiatric component, a psychiatric service dog, we're really focused on the dog helping the veteran work through the challenges of their hidden injuries. What we really are trying to accomplish with our program, and we talk about that therapeutic program, is we know that PTSD and in some ways traumatic brain injuries, your brain is stuck, right? You're stuck in that fight or flight mode, and we're trying to help build new connections and move out of that fight or flight and back up into executive thinking, and using the dog to help them do that. When you see a service dog, I do a lot of the presentations for the kids, and this is a big thing that I hit on. And when you see a service dog, you should do nothing. And the example I always use is, if you see someone out in public that has a wheelchair, a cane, crutches, oxygen, any other type of medical device, are you going to go up to them and ask them details about their wheelchair, or ask them why they need a wheelchair, or ask if you can pet their wheelchair? No, you're not. A service dog is considered a medical device. So when they're out working, they're working, and so you should just pretend the dog isn't there. That is the best piece of advice that I have. And the other example that I use is our veterans are just regular people. And when you look at the things that we have to do on a day-to-day basis, and my example is always, you got to get the kids to soccer practice, you got to get home and make dinner, you got to do this, this, and that, but we're out of milk. Where is milk in the store? It's at the back of the store. So if you're in a hurry and you've got to get milk so you can get home and get dinner made, and the walk from the front of the store to the back and grab the dairy, every person stops you and asks if they can pet your dog, or why you have a dog, or oh, your dog is so cute, kissy. Can you imagine how exhausting that would be? And so they're just regular people just trying to get about their day-to-day life, with the dog being the medical device that they need to help them do that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions, a lot of misinformation, like you said. I know other service providers have asked for presentations from you all in regards to, the difference between emotional support animals and then service dogs. What kind of, I guess, beyond that education, and I think beyond just what the program is, what kind of changes are you seeing in the veterans that you're working with?
I think that's where the passion comes from, right? Like, that's why we're here. When we look at the change that the veterans experience, it's slow. It's usually about a year that they've been paired with their dog, working with their dog, that all of a sudden the light bulb happens, and they'll call, or they'll come in and they'll say, "You'll never believe what my dog did." And that is definitely the most rewarding part of this job. The things that they're able to accomplish that they weren't able to do before. We had one veteran that he was very serious, always had his sunglasses on, fairly big guy, and just so serious all the time. Stoic, thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. And the dog he was matched with is, I like all of our dogs, but there's a few that I kind of have a little extra soft spot for. And this dog's just the cutest, sweetest, like goofiest dog. And it was about a year into the program, and all of a sudden this veteran started coming in and didn't always have his sunglasses on. And then he'd have a smile on his face, this ear-to-ear grin. And one day he said, you see this? Do you know what this is, what this is from? And he points down at his dog. And it's little things like that all of a sudden it's like you don't see the progress until you do. Yeah. And then it's like, wow, this really is impactful. And if I can, I'll tell another one that the veteran, when he started, he had been at a local event, one of the really crowded street events that's very popular, and had ended up having a absolute blackout panic attack. Ambulance was called, and when he came in, he's like, I want to be able to do this stuff. He had 2 sons that were at the time, they were, I think, both in junior high, high school age, and he wanted to be able to do things with his family. And this story, I think, really means a lot to me, because a lot of times we'll get phone calls of, people wanting to donate dogs or things like that. And the idea is that it's always this veteran that's alone by himself in the basement and nobody's around. And you guys, I'm sure, experience this as well, that most of the veterans that we work with, that they have families, they have kids, they have partners, they have this whole life that they want to get back to. And so this veteran, he called, he was about a year and a half into his training, and his boys had both played in the State A football championship, and their team won. And he was able to watch both of his boys play the whole game, and then he was able to go to the after party. And that seems like something so simple, but for a veteran that was struggling to get out of the house, that now he had that moment with his kids, with his family, that's what we're trying to accomplish.
Right. Yeah, people take it for granted. I mean, just day-to-day tasks that can be overwhelming, especially if you've, witnessed some of the things that a lot of our service members do overseas or even stateside, I imagine. So your program's not for everybody. We talked about the application process. Obviously one of the diagnoses, the funding's there. I mean, do you guys accept, if they meet those criteria, just about everybody, or?
So the application process includes the application. We need 2 family support forms from someone who lives with them or is in contact with them at least once a week, and a section completed by their medical provider. We then do an interview, we do a home inspection, we do a background check, and then they have to take an online course and observe 3 classes before we'll finalize, accept them into the program. We spend a lot of time making sure that the veteran is a good fit for us and that we're a good fit for them. And sometimes that's not the case, but we try to refer to any other organizations. We'll refer to you guys. We'll, if they are needing a service dog, but maybe our model isn't the right model, we'll refer out to other organizations that do what's called the national model. That's where they train the dog, and then the veteran comes for usually a couple of weeks to learn how to handle the dog. And that's typically if they have mobility challenges and things that would make it difficult for them to physically participate in the program, because it's a big commitment. We hold them accountable because we have a dog that we're also responsible for, and so we want to make sure that the veterans that participate in our program are committed to it, and that we're going to be able to serve them as best we can.
I think it's just important for people to know what they're signing up
Yes,
for. So
yes,
I mean, it's not like, oh, here's a dog.
No,
it's a commitment, like you said.
Huge commitment, and like I said, we hold them accountable. We do everything we can to help them along the way. We support. I can't tell you how many hours our trainers put in outside of their regular training, because they're responding to text messages or phone calls, and we really build relationships with them. And so the other thing that they have to be ready for is, once they're a part of this program, they're stuck with us, because it's not just the 2 years of program. Once they graduate, they have to recertify every year. The dog, we maintain ownership of the dog until it retires, so they're stuck with us for the next 10 to 12 years.
Well, I imagine that's a pretty good thing in most cases. So,
I hope so.
So you've told us all about the program, but I know programs like that, especially when there's no cost to the veteran, and that's the way I know you guys want to keep it. How can the community, how can people support Dog Tech Buddies?
Donations are always welcome. Donations can be made on our website, through online. We have our address and everything on there if they prefer checks or cash. The other big thing that the community can really help us with is spread the word. Let others know that we're here. If you know a veteran that might benefit from us, send them our way. Tell your friends and family. In Montana, grassroots is the best way to get your message out.
Yeah.
And we've tried paid advertisement and things like that, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So talking to your friends and family and just letting people know that we exist and that we're here, and we are a Montana nonprofit and supporting Montana local veterans and their families. And I think that's a really important thing to Dee Dee and I, is that we talked about it, we're impacting the veteran, but we're helping the families. And when we're helping the families and the veteran, we're helping the community, and it becomes a ripple effect. And we know here in Montana, our rural veterans they need us, they need our support. And so 1 in 10 are veterans. If you talk to 9 other people about who Dog Tag Buddies are, you're bound to meet a veteran.
Right. And you guys also do a pretty cool event every year. Is there another one in the future?
Yes, we do. We have this will be our 4th annual Celebrity Chef Gala. That is coming up on October 11th. So seems like a ways away, but
It'll be here before you know
it will. It will. Planning events it sneaks up on you. So yeah, we're really excited to be hosting that again. It sounds like Chef Rush will be coming back this year. We're trying to maybe mix it up a little bit. We'll see what happens with that. And we're coming up on, so Dee Dee and I have talked about this, we're coming up on our 10-year anniversary. So we got our 501c3 in late 2015. We matched our first veteran in early 2016. So we're trying to decide whether or not we do our 10-year celebration this year or early next year. But it's hard to believe that it's been 10 years.
Yeah, and it's incredible journey, and just watching, since I've been here in Billings for the last 5 years, just watching it grow and get bigger and better. So you guys are doing amazing things, and yeah, I'm glad to see what the next 10 years will show. So yeah, well, thanks for being with us, Katie. And for anybody that's watching, if you're interested in connecting to Dog Tag Buddies, Katie will have the website posted, but also if you're interested in connecting to other resources for veterans and their family members, you can reach out to Veterans Navigation Network at veteransnavigation.org, and we can get you pointed in the right direction, make sure you're getting all the benefits that you earn through your service, that your family's taken care of, and get you on that path to success. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.